Hello and welcome to Man's Model Moonments. So as you can see here, I have the brand new Airfix 1/144 scale SLS Artemis, and this is a model kit set, so it actually includes paints, brushes and cement, as well as this rather huge box. As you can see, it barely fits in camera. I've got it angled so that it doesn't reflect the light, but you can see it is a pretty sturdy corrugated car box. You can see the corrugations just being reflected off there, with some pretty nice box art. One thing I do really like about this, and this is tribute to Airfix thinking about this, one, I love this logo with the little sort of space shuttle sort of thing, planets orbiting the Airfix logo. But the other thing is, they have this landscape mode picture, and then on the other side you have different box art with a portrait version of this thing blasting off. So you get two different pieces of artwork and different ways to display it in a shop, which is really neat. As a retailer, I really appreciate this. It gives you options. So the double sort of A side is a real boon to retail. It's just a shame Hornby don't back that up. But enough of my Hornby rants. Let's open this up and have a look what's inside. Now, strangely, this is an end opening box, which is the only thing I don't like here. We have a bag with 2 cements, 2 brushes, and a lot of paint. Interestingly, there's no white paint, which seems a little odd. I guess they're just expecting you to use the white of the plastic. That's a bit weird. Instructions, colour, we'll have a look at those shortly. Photograph decals, we'll have a look at those shortly. Then you have plastic. Now, we've got separately bagged stand, black. We stand. And we have 2 bags. Again, I don't know what this current trend is with India producing these things. There's a huge amount of room in these bags. The bag is absolutely enormous. These are big frames, but the bags are absolutely huge. Don't know why that is. It's not actually very good for packaging, so they move around like this. Is, you know, where it's folded over, you can tell it's pretty chippy, but again, you get loads of room that we can move around, which isn't the best. But anyway, let's get this open and actually have a look. Okay, so let's take a look at the instructions. Get this nice art, which is the same as the portrait style box art. It's rather nice. Oh, okay. Take that out. That's the paint guide. Let's just take a look at the paint guide first then. It's here. Only one paint scheme for this, obviously, because it is the Artemis Space Launch System. We have all the decal placement with NASA and the European Space Agency logos. It's pretty basic, right? As I say, they are relying on the white of the plastic, which is not something I would recommend. And then they are basically just accenting, okay, really when you're painting this section, you know, you've got silver, black for the support struts, and then red for there's a ring here on the nozzle itself. So yeah, not sure I would recommend that, but hey, that's what we're giving you. And then here there's a lot of red and a lot of orange. I'm not sure it's quite that red in reality, but hey, you know, are you going to use these starter paints? I wouldn't recommend it. You know, we all know what umbrella paints are like. when we're in those little tubs. I mean, you're going to get a much better result on a thing this size spraying it with a rattle can anyway. Or obviously using an airbrush, but this is a gift set, so somebody may not have access to that who's receiving this. But again, fairly basic, lots of decal placement, all looks pretty good. So you have the before you start recommendation pieces there as part of the actual instructions, which is good. All the details there, multiple languages, lots of languages for the warning stuff. Oh my god. And so it continues. Lots of multi-language stuff. And then you come on to the actual construction. The usual bit here, showing you, okay, you need to open up all of these holes. And then all of the strengthening pieces internally for the actual liquid fuel booster part. And you actually get into the construction. The use of colour to show where things have come on, and the use of colour to show where things should be painted. All standard Airfix stuff, all pretty good. We're used to that kind of standard. I mean, the actual construction, you know, it's a rocket, so it's a big tube with a couple more tubes attached. Got some nice little call-out bits here. Which way to put these things in, which is nice, so that you can get it right rather than wrong. Again, here, how it should go. All these little pointer pieces are really helpful, especially in a model set, you know, which might go to somebody who's not necessarily an experienced model. And they've probably done one or two models rather than a lot, possibly, getting this gift set. And this all looks pretty straightforward, and it looks like the construction is going to be pretty robust. They've actually approached this in quite an interesting way. Basically, you've got the top piece, which obviously ejects after launch with these little rocket boosters that go in. So they've just sort of cinched it in and then put it in rather than making a separate piece. So that means that this will always be at the correct vertical position, which is quite a nice way to handle it. So again, I think the design of this looks pretty good. And then for the very top part, the final stage, you have all this bracing that goes around the rocket motor at the bottom there with the single nozzle. Then that fits into the top, and it looks like you can put that in and lock it in without cementing it, and that's a really nice touch. I like that. That's good. And then you obviously just put it on on your stand. I won't talk about that anymore. Overall, no issues there. It looks pretty good. So this is the decal sheet for Artemis. It's obviously a cartograph, the NASA logos, which I don't know, that weirdly it kind of looks like, I don't know if that's intentional. It's kind of, you've got this stepping on some of this. Is that supposed to be like that? So this is the first set of components here on this frame, and everything obviously molded in white plastic. So it looks like we have the tops of the boosters. This is obviously the big main fuel tank and booster rocket section. It all looks pretty nicely molded, no flash, it's all quite crisp. We've got some almost like a satin finish on here, and then just standard piece here. I quite like the way that this is, you see, in relief. There's A8 on it, so you can tell what part it is, because it is just a flat disc. Doesn't look too complicated. Next we actually have two identical frames. These have these rather nicely molded. This looks like they were possibly using slide molds. But these are the one-piece booster cones, shock cones for the rocket motors. Then you have various components for the boosters. They're here. Fuel lines. So these all look pretty good. Got some internal strengthening pieces. Also, these ribs on the outside don't correspond to where the strengthening is on the inside. I don't see any sink marks there, so certainly better than, for example, the Stalwart. They seem to have learned there. There's a bit of warping in these frames. So let's just put that one aside. The moments you can see these ones, so you can see on this example, look how warped that is. But I think that might be from where this has pushed. I think it's been put like that. And it's just the weight of the rest of the frame which has pulled that down. I don't think that's inherently a moulding issue. But that looks pretty good. And then we have frame 4. We only have 4 frames in this kit, so it's pretty basic. Interestingly though, this is touted as a skill level 3 kit, whereas the Wessex is a skill level 2. I think that's crazy. I think this is easily a much less difficult kit than the Wessex. It's got larger pieces, it doesn't have as many. You do have some incredibly fine elements here. Those are really thin. Just see my hand behind them, how thin those are. And those are all perfect. So, again, unless that's been broken off, it's difficult to tell. Is that broken? Don't know. I'll caveat that because I don't know. I'll have a look in the instructions and we'll take a look at those in a second. Got casting spurs on the end of these to make sure they're all correctly done. Got some detail on here. I mean, it's a rocket, so there isn't a lot of detail anyway. But overall, again, looks pretty good. Lastly, we have the single-piece base moulded in black plastic. At least two. It feels rather wrong doing this because, well, I'll give you. You can be the judge of what those look like. Obviously, they're moulded so that they fit the rocket cones, but it's rather than a fortunate look. Or is it just my childish, dirty mind? Anyway, this is quite a nice piece. It's nice and robust. It feels like it's going to be to support it quite well. I think I would put some weight in the bottom because it's obviously going to be very tall, just to make sure that it sits. And you do have a bit of distance there to be able to put weights, maybe under here as well, just to pull that down to make sure that it doesn't fall over, but that looks pretty good. So I thought what might be interesting is to actually compare the Artemis with something that some of you may already be familiar with, and that is the old 1144 scale Saturn V, the Apollo mission rocket, which has been issued at the same time. It's the same price. It's also a model kit, so it also includes all of the paints and glue and everything. But this obviously goes way back. So this is a re-release. It's essentially a vintage classic in all but name. So again, they've done this rather nice thing where you have this. I don't know if there's a photograph. I think it's actually a digital art, but it looks really nice of the rocket lifting off in portrait mode, and then you have this one of it actually above the Earth in landscape mode. This is a really nice thing. So I must shout out to Airfix here, because for retailers, I've been bemoaning Hornby's treatment of retailers. This is a really nice nod towards displaying this product in shops in the best way possible. Giving you those two options, I think, is really good. So thank you guys for that. That's much appreciated. So let's have a little look inside here. I've been wanting to do one of these for quite some time, but I do want to pay the eBay prices. You can pay quite a lot for these. eBay. So I was quite happy when they announced this. Okay, the instructions are revamped, but essentially they're going to be the same as they were before. Don't look too bad. We'll take a look at those in a second. You have different colours. In fact, we don't get quite as many paints here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. And the Artemis we got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So a lot less paint in this one, which is a little surprising. Seems you're paying the same, but hey, I won't be using them anyway. But this time you only have a single bag for everything, which is a little disappointing. And again, it's massively oversized. I think stuff can easily move around in here. So that is not so good.
Now I just want to take a moment to thank all of you who have supported me directly through YouTube memberships and Patreon. This really does keep the channel going, and without you it would be very difficult for me to be able to continue doing this. Now if you're only just seeing your name on here for the first time, it's because I update this monthly, and if I've prepared some videos ahead of time, then there may still have the old list on, even if the list has been updated since then. Don't worry though, your name will get on the list and will continue to appear throughout your support. If you are considering supporting me, YouTube channel membership is by far the easiest way to do this, since Patreon is becoming a more challenging platform to engage with. Whichever you choose, however, I absolutely appreciate your contributions, and don't forget to come and check out the private members Discord, which you get access to at any level.
Okay, here we have the Saturn V Instructions. Again, really like this. This is neat. And I think if you're a kid, again, it just makes it feel better somehow. And who doesn't like big rockets, you know? A lot of, tons of it is just instruction-y warning bits in masses of different languages. When we actually get to the instructions, fairly basic. So stage 1 is just basically the main booster with the 5 huge rocket exhausts. And then you get into stage 2. So one of the things I really like about this, and that I remember as a child, is that all of these stages, you can make them and then lock them together without gluing them. So, you can disassemble it. I think that's a really neat feature of this kit that I always did. And I still think it's a good feature. Stage 3, you've got a little lunar module. Kind of all wrapped up as it was. The deployment, which pops in there. And then you've got the command module, which has a cap on top of this. That's a neat way to do it, actually. Because I think the original one, I don't know, there's something about it not being big enough or being too big or something. But you've got the escape rocket here. I think, no, it all looks like you can put it all together. Again, we'll find out when we come to put it together, but I think it's really neat how these bits can lock together without gluing, and you can put it all in there and then disassemble it separately. That's quite cool. Then you have the assembly of the base, very basic, and it's only really stationed on that centre one, so you may want something a bit more stable if you were actually going to look at it. Decals and coloration. Obviously you've got the gold for the lander and that gold foil that's wrapped around it. Otherwise it's white. Obviously they don't give you any white, they're just telling you to paint the panels rather than anything else, which, yeah, not sure. A little acknowledgement here, extending thanks to people in the IPMS and NASA SIGs. That's quite neat. Appreciate that. I mean, it's a Saturn V. It looks pretty standard. Looks pretty good. Decal wise, you're getting a few decals here. Big United States flags, of course, the big USA, United States, and all different little pieces for different stages on there. And then the Saturn V Apollo 11 first manned moon landing, July 16th to 24th, 1969. So, that's all looking pretty good. And this is one of the big advantages of getting the kit now rather than getting it on eBay, is not just that it's a price and it's newly impressed, but also you're getting decals that work. That's a good thing. So overall, that didn't look too bad. Okay, so my first issue is that because this has been able to move around so much in the bag, this piece is completely detached. Problem with that is, of course, if something just detaches from this, it's not a controlled manner, it just rips off. So it's likely to damage the parts in some way. So, not great, but obviously we'll deal with it. In terms of the actual parts themselves, much shinier finish, but that's obviously part of the moulding. But the detail on here it's nice and crisp. I mean, this is quite thick, quite substantial plastic, but that doesn't look bad. What you're looking at here, so it doesn't. I mean, these are very old-fashioned frames. They're quite thick, chunky, this hexagonal format that Airfix used to employ. But you still have some relatively fine pieces. So these are actually the lander legs, look, as it's, as they are stowed. So you've got the little ladder on one of them. Those aren't bad. The actual pieces don't appear to have much in the way of flash on them. They seem quite crisply moulded. So actually this doesn't look bad. We have the little attitude adjusting jets here, again for the command module I expect. They look pretty good. So that's not looking bad. Okay, so the second one of these frames, actually everything is attached, although you can see some of these are a little tenuous. So that shows very much how the kind of approach to mould making has changed over the past years. Things like this nozzle, they don't have any detail in them at all, because if you actually look inside, the pins that actually fasten them are inside the actual nozzles, which is quite an interesting way of doing it. We've got some raised panel lines very much of the time. I think this is I think perhaps the command module. But overall, Doesn't look bad. It certainly looks robust, let's put it that way. Appreciate I am going backwards down the rocket here, but we have lots more. I mean, these enormous, absolutely enormous engines. Quite incredible. They are numbered on the inside. You can just see that if I move it. Probably not. They're very, I can barely see them here. But they're all numbered inside so that you can cut them off and not lose track of what parts are what. So these are all numbered, all these parts inside. Which I don't think is a bad idea, actually. There is a visible release agent there. That actually looks greasy. You can feel it. Can you see that? So some of this shine is partially coming from release agent, actually, physically on the mold. So you are going to have to wash these. I don't normally wash my frames, but you are going to have to wash these or wipe them with isopropanol before doing stuff with them, otherwise you can have some issues. There is a little bit of sink in some of these pieces, but they are quite chunky. There's nothing, no insert there. And this just comes out, so it's a solid piece of plastic, probably 4mm, maybe 3 or 4mm thick, so hardly surprising you're getting some all back there. But these ribs, nicely cast. There's no issue with any of those. Those all look pretty good, actually. So there is some warpage in the frame itself. It's pretty prominent, but it doesn't seem to have affected the parts, as far as I can see. I guess the proof in that will come when we come to put them together. Okay, so here we have some of the, I mean, again, there is visible and definitely feelable release agent on these. It's pretty gross, actually. Have a little lander. I mean, it's a representation, right? It's not meant to be incredible. And the actual command module, re-entry module here. You've got 3 little astronauts. That's quite neat. I mean, they're fun, I would say, more than anything. I mean, it's of its time, but it's not bad. You know? Certainly, if you want a bit of nostalgia, I don't think this is going to be too bad at all. It certainly gets you that space race sort of feel. But yeah, the amount of mold release agent is really disappointing. It's actually horrible. But that looks pretty good. Okay, final frame, and I don't know what's happened here. It looks like this has been dragged across the floor. Look at this. That is awful. I mean, that's filthy. I don't know what has happened there, but that is not pleasant. Anywho, we have the stand. That is not as nice as the Artemis one, obviously. It's a lot more basic, and you're going to need to make sure that is well planted if you're going to put this Apollo on it, because the Apollo, I think, is taller than the Artemis. This is the command module, I think, here. I think the re-entry module, let's just have a look at this. I think that's the re-entry module, right? Did they do... Yeah, this. That is the top of the rocket that has the things on. That may be one of the pressure vessels? I don't know. Maybe they reduced the size. I really don't know. I'm completely speculating here. Oh no, that, I think... No, it can't be what they sit on. I don't know. I'm gonna stop speculating on things I don't know what they are. We'll have a look when we have a look at the instructions. But this all looks fine. What is going on there? I mean, again, this is a QC issue, right? This is an India issue. But other than that, it looks fine. Let's have a look at the differences between them. So this is very much a kind of satin finish, and you have fine detail pieces like these little bumps on here. And these pieces, this little impression. You do have surface detail. It's subtle, but it is there. This obviously is much more 1970s kind of plastic. You do have all of this ribbing, which is quite nice the way it's produced. It's not as crisp, so obviously it's the age of the mould and design of the mould in the first place. I think some plastic is about the same. This obviously, as I mentioned before, it does feature some release agent on it, which I didn't really detect in this. Is probably down to the design of the moulds. In the older moulds, they wanted to make sure that the plastic releases from those, whereas here you can actually contain it more in the form of the plastic and the design of the mould. The main difference, I would say, in the design of the gates and everything here is, these are thinner, more delicate, whilst also having a complete frame around, so it's a lot more supportive. Whereas this is the main injection runner, and you've got these bits which go off, and it all feels a bit plasticky, which obviously it is, but not in a good way, let's say. So there are some artifacts here which are very 1960s, 1970s. Although I believe this kit was 1980s. Oh, in fact, here we go. Airfix Products Limited, 1980. So it's really interesting that it says 1980 here, because the original tool of this was from 1970. Because if it was 1980, I wouldn't have actually had this kit in my bedroom as a 5-year-old. Because I was 11 in 1980 and we had moved to our other house. I distinctly remember this being perched in the corner of my bedroom in our first house before my sister was really on the scene. I was about 4 years old. So yeah, 1970 tags in with that line, or 1973. So it was released 1970, 1973, 1975. Then in 1981 it was released with new parts. So these are from the 1981 release. So they've obviously redone some of these parts, modified the kit in some way, which is interesting. So I can't find any other dates on them. But I mean, in terms of the overall moulding, this is obviously much crisper. You've got really fine detail here on the top here, this little piece, compared to these, which are just discs. So that is a direct comparison between two sort of pressure vessels from the fuel. And here you can see this fine detail, and this one, it is just a disc. So I think that shows the improvement in technology and the way that this is tooled over 55 years. There's 55 years of tooling difference which separate these two. I think this holds up pretty well in comparison with this. This is obviously nicer tooled. You know, the quality of the parts, you know, does show through in this. These are really nice. These single piece nozzles. You know, compared to these sort of multi-piece ones here with the ribbing. These aren't bad, but these are, you know, they're single piece. There's going to be no seam to clean up, which is going to be difficult with these ribs. Whereas these, you know, there's nothing to clean up at all, which is great. The finesse is demonstrated in these pieces, right? That's possible. Compared to, you know, these pieces are fun, you know, the astronauts and little command module, but this is quite crude, you know. It's limited by the technology at the time. If this was put to be produced with this sort of technology, I mean, the little detail on here is great. And, you know, you've got great little riveting detail, I guess. You know, some part of the construction. I quite like this sort of matte satin finish. I think this is quite a clever way to deal with. Although that is a bit saggy there. We'll have to see how that looks. And then bringing these in, I think that's quite clever. But yeah, so you can definitely see the difference, you know, between these pieces and these. But overall, this holds up, I think, fairly well compared to this. And both of them are pretty chunky, pretty sizable kits. Now, are they worth £50? Well, that's a decision that, you know, only you can make. This is going to be a big kit. You know, does size equal money? Well, you know, not always, but you're going to feel like you've got a substantial kit in both cases. You know, with the big liquid oxygen tank on the Artemis with those two boosters, and with the just enormous size of the Saturn V. I think it'd be interesting to build them, and that's something I will do, so I'll do a full build review of these. But I just wanted to give you a first look in comparison between the two kits, and do have them in stock at the shop if you're interested in buying them. They're some £45. So yeah, that's not too bad, I think. Good to have some space stuff.
Now, I'd love to know what you think about these two space-themed model sets, so please do let me know your views in the comments section below, and if you'd like to see the full build reviews of both of these rockets, then please do go ahead and like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click the notification bell to find out when those videos are uploaded. All of that interaction is absolutely free, and it really does help the channel out. That's all for this instalment of Man's Model Moments. If you enjoyed the video, please click the like button, subscribe to the channel for more like it, and share this video with others you think would also enjoy it. You can also follow me on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook, and if you're feeling generous, then I also have a Patreon, which is absolutely the best way of helping me to grow the channel and produce more content like this. With that, I hope you have plenty of modelling moments of your own, and I look forward to welcoming you on the next video.